And welcome back to the Township Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for Wednesday, February 5th. It is now 1:20 p.m. We had a closed session for those people that didn't join us earlier that started at 10:30. And I'm just going to rise and report at this point in time that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region rise and report 4 items. Direction was provided to the CAO on the potential sale of properties. Second item, information was received from staff relating to building permit process at the property located at 23 Little Street with direction provided to the CAO. Third item, information was received relating to shareholder agreement amendments with direction provided to the CAO. And the fourth item was education occurred on lessons learned from the 2025 Roma delegations and improvements moving forward on future delegations. Excellent. That is the closure of item number 14 on our agenda, which is our closed session. And just before we had gone into closed, we had done items 1 through 3. So I'm going to commence here on item number 4, which is the adoption of our minutes. 4.1 is the recommendation that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region approve the minutes of the closed session December 4th, 2024 and January 15th, 2025, understanding that they remain confidential, as well as the regular session that occurred on January 15th, 2025. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. Is there any errors or omissions noted in any of those minutes, noting you can't talk about the closed ones in open? Good. I see none. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Good. And I'll just note that attached to the agenda for your reading perusal as well as the public's, there's a number of committee and boards minutes. So the first one is Muskrat Watershed minutes from January 16th. And I'll just ask if Councillor Tabbert has anything to add to them.
Nothing to add.
Good. And then our Beachburg Recreation Association minutes from November and January. They are enclosed there. And I know you're my secondary on rec. Do you have anything to say on those ones? No? Okay, good. And the last one is the Ross Museum Annual Report, which is enclosed, highlighting some of the successes that the Ross Museum has achieved this past year. Councillor Bell's not here. I don't have an alternative for him, so if there's any questions, you'll have to approach him afterwards. Good. Item 5 on the agenda is disclosures of interest. We did this before the closed session, just to make sure, but I will re-ask it at this point in time. Is there any disclosures on any of the other items on the agenda today? Okay, I see none, which moves us into presentations. And today we have 2 presentations scheduled for council. The first one, Mr. Cameron Dube, will be speaking to us about the 2025 Wendigo FatBike Ultra. So, Mr. Dube, I'll get you to come up to the mic. We showed him how to turn it on.
I did.
Perfect. Just hold it. It should go green. Good. Floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. It was prompted by Mr. Burton that I come and give everyone an update here. We're at the 10th year for the Wendigo FatBike Ultra Marathon. Again, my name's Cameron Dube. I live in Beachburg. And I can proudly say I'm part of the Whitewater Volunteer Fire Department now as well. Yeah. And I'll be here again tonight for some orientation. So we're in our 10th year. So the Wendigo Ultra. And the hashtag or the slogan for this is pedal, push, endure. If you're familiar with the word marathon, it's 42 kilometers. If you put the word ultra in front of it, it's anything above 42 kilometers. So this particular event, people get the chance to stretch their legs 55, 110, or 205 kilometers in this particular event. And the majority of it goes through the township of Whitewater, and we also head west, we also head east. Next slide, please. Whoop, we're going too fast, sorry, yep, back a bit. One more, please. There we go. So just so you can see the 3 distances there. It's a Cobden start. We've been partners with the brewery here ever since they were in Cobden. Previous to that, we actually ran the event. This is a while ago, 2014, 2015, 2016. We ran the event down Cobden Lake, 10 kilometers. We would groom the lake. And they would cross out on private land that we had permission, go towards Beachburg, all the way to Shawville and back on that rail line. That was 150 return. But once the Algonquin Trail came to fruition and as a multi-use trail, it just made sense to use it. The majority of the other ultras, be it summer or winter ultras in the world, most of them happen on reclaimed rail trail. A lot of them do, and I'll speak to that in a moment. So the 55 kilometer is a Cobden start. They go to the MyFM Center in Renfrew and back. The 110 kilometer is a Cobden start. They go to Mallard's Milk Bar in Arnprior. If you have not been there yet, highly recommended. Very tasty spot to stop. I don't know how ice cream will do at -30 when riders come in after about 5 hours of trudging their way towards Arnprior, but calories are calories in the end, right? Then they come back from Arnprior through Renfrew and into Cobden for their finish. That's the 110. And then the 205 start in the same direction with the sunrise. So they head east to Mallard's Milk Bar. They check in there. They come back through Cobden. They check in here at Cobden at the Civitan Hall, which we rent out. And then they continue to Petawawa. Typically it's Gearhead's Bike Shop is the turnaround control point there. And then they come back and they finish in Cobden. That's the 205. And this 205 event is right up there with some of the bigger events in the world. Once you get over 200 kilometers, you start to attract people from all over the place. So we do have people that come in from the States for this as well. Next slide, please. That's just at the start a few years ago. A local photographer took that, but it speaks to the essence of the event. So you're out there, you are on your own, pushing yourself mentally and physically, but at the same time, everyone's to look out for one another as well. And they are loaded up with a lot of gear for the 100 and 200. That's a safety requirement that they go through before they actually get on the bike and go. So that was right here at the main street where the trail crosses at about 6 o'clock in the morning last year, 2 years ago. Next slide, please. Hopefully this plays. Should be a video. Nothing? Okay, it's on our Facebook page. It's a little teaser video, 10 seconds long. Not a big deal. There's a little snapshot of where people, most recently anyways, have come from. So up towards Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie area, and then New Brunswick. Haven't had Nova Scotia yet, but definitely New Brunswick. Quebec, lots from Quebec City, Montreal, Mont-Tremblant area. Ottawa, lots of people come in from Ottawa. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all the way down to St. Louis, Missouri, Kentucky, that area down there as well. There's been a few. North Carolina as well. I think there's been a couple too. New York, Pennsylvania, all within a big day's drive for sure for some of them. Yeah, over the years, there's typically about 3 to 5 who are from the United States every year that come in. So, yeah, and they're the ones that are trying to tag off all the bigger events across the world, just like it's like this one. It's kind of a bucket list events they want to do, right? So, next slide, please. There's the route. So Cobden start finish. That's a 205. So they would head kind of down on your map to the bottom of the page. So southeast, east to Arnprior. They check in there. Checking in is a control point, is a safety aspect. They have to come in, the volunteers there, they have to give their name, their number. We do a quick physical scan on them to see how they're doing, frostbite, exhaustion, that sort of thing. And they can refuel there as well, but it is self-supported, so they're supposed to carry all the required gear with, they do carry all the required gear with them and calories with them as well, but they can replenish in unplanned fashion. So they can't call ahead and order a pizza and come pick it up. They have to ride to Milano's, order it, wait, pick it up and go, that sort of thing. Their friends, family can't wait at a road crossing for them and, you know, ditch some layers and get some dry layers. They can't do that. It's what they start with is what they have to finish with. Some statistics from last year, I did a quick poll. This would be of interest to some people. I just wanted to kind of get an idea where they're coming from, how long their travel is, where they're staying, and their experience on the trail itself. So say out of 50 people who answered it, any dangerous acts from other trail users. So this was solely on the Algonquin Trail. So it's really nice to see that 80% was no, there was nothing that brought alarm to them while they were using the trail for the day. Would you prefer that the route is not entirely on snowmobile trail or the Algonquin Trail? And it was roughly 50-50, let's say. So interestingly enough, we have enough back roads here that we could change the route a little bit. There's some quiet dirt roads around here, right? It wouldn't be a problem, but there is the the type 2 fun allure of being on a rail trail where you're staring down this endless line forever and just grinding away, right? If you had lodging in the area, how many nights did you stay in the area? So just to kind of break it up, I just wanted to see how long people were coming here for and staying in the area for. And of course, there's no true accommodations in the village of Cobden itself. So I asked them if they'd prefer to have a start in a different area. And oddly enough, even though there's nowhere to stay here, they all like starting here and finishing here. So different, eh? It kind of speaks to the community itself and how welcoming it is, right? With the brewery here and the Civitan Hall and all the little shops and stuff. So how far was your drive to get here? I can't really see. I'll just kind of let you read it there while they're on. And then the other one was, what type of lodging did you stay at? So I tried to break it down as much as possible with that. There's even a few staying at the Whitewater Inn in Beachburg as well, I could see. Yeah. So event specifics and safety gear. So there's online registration. There's the waivers to do, and you know, we have to file for insurance and everything. And all of our partners are all covered under our insurance for the event. And there's a list of mandatory gear that each competitor has to bring with them, and they have to prove to me that they have it exactly as I want it. So the physical gear check is actually, I'm walking around and checking every little piece as we go through it. And even if they're all packed up on their bike, which they're not supposed to be, they have to unpack everything and show me the whole sleeping bag. I have to see the rating on the sleeping bag. It has to be rated as such to -18 Celsius or warmer. And then we both sign off on it that they're going to carry it with them for the entirety of the event until they finish. And we do the odd check at the end, sometimes just to see if we're kind of got a hunch on someone. Never caught anybody. Everyone's pretty good about it. They sign up for this knowingly, right? They know what's coming, so everyone's pretty good about it. Trail etiquette, that's at the Muskrat boat launch, just off of Highway 17, some riders going by in the picture. So trail etiquette is as such, right? Everyone needs to abide by the rules of the trail. It is an active snowmobile trail during the wintertime as well. So we yield to the faster, bigger machines, stay to the right. High visibility is key, so they have to have a certain amount of square inch of reflective material on the front and the back, blinky lights front and back on day and night, and then half an hour before dark or sunset, the big high-powered bright lights come on the front so that they can navigate themselves too, because some people don't finish until 6 in the morning the next day or even later. So they're traveling through the night. Next slide, yep. Some of our partners there. Some of them have been with us from day one, so gearheads for sure, and Whitewater snowgoers when we used to run the event as well through the Beachburg line too. They were just fantastic to accommodate us too. So that's what makes the event here is having these partnerships with all the local communities and clubs and businesses. It really helps out a lot. Thief bike packing, you see the word thief there. They're actually a bike bag company. The gentleman used to live in Foresters Falls and sew the bags in Foresters Falls. He's since moved to Jasper. His home did not burn down. Luckily, he was good. But he was part of that this summer as well. But all is well, and he's back in business, and he's shipping bags to us as prizes for competitors, which is really nice. So, yeah, lots of people involved in it. It's not just myself. There's volunteers that come out too, and are out there for many hours on end at the checkpoints. We've been featured in a bunch of magazines and podcasts. People want to hear about it and learn about the event. And then a lot of the people who come and partake, they have their own podcasts or they write articles in a lot of the magazines, or they're YouTubers, and they're pretty good at giving their own kind of take on the event and how it went. And it's always nice to see that as well. So the Wendigo is featured in a lot of different online platforms. So similar events. One of the coldest ones that I've ever been to, the Arrowhead in northern Minnesota, right on the border with, if you keep going past Thunder Bay and follow the lake to the border again, that's where International Falls is. So that's probably one of the most longest standing winter fat bike ultras in North America, or in the world really. And it's 215 kilometers point to point. So you're starting in one spot, you're finishing at another, and then you need to figure your way back if you make it to the end. So their attrition rate is typically about 50% that don't finish in this type of event. They also allow skiers and hikers/runners. So people run 215 kilometers pretty much nonstop and -30, or they ski it as well. So a local in Beachburg, Ben Shillington, he skied the Arrowhead on one of the coldest years ever. It was -42 at the start, and he finished it that year as well. I was on my bike and I did not finish it that year. I was frostbitten to the nines. Yeah. The Tuscobia is a few hours closer than the Arrowhead, down in the States as well, though, and that's an out and back event, similar to this one. And then JP's backyard Fat Pursuit is in Idaho. He's a former pro ultra distance rider, and now he hosts a few events, this being one of them. And his is in the mountains. So, he's probably one of the only ones out there that is very, very big on the elevation gain and loss with this type of event, whereas most of the other ones are long, flat courses. And in Canada, the other one, which is happening this weekend, I think, is just outside of Winnipeg, the Active Epica. It's been around for a long time as well. Just a few shots, a few pictures along the trail. That's your typical rider, pretty bundled up, especially the toes, fingers, and nose are the big ones, right? Your body itself, it's kind of like, snowshoeing, and you build up a lot of heat, or cross-country skiing, so the layer you wear as a jacket and pants, you tend to sweat a lot of that out, so you don't want to go too heavy. You're not wearing like a big down coat or anything like that if you're riding, right? But your fingers, nose, and toes, you need to keep very well insulated. So a lot of riders, you'll see that rider, it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of like sleeping bags for your hands, and they're on your handlebars. And that's what they are. They're big insulated mitts that slide right on your handlebars. They're called pogies. And what you put in there are your batteries, food, hot heat packs, like you name it. You just jam those things full of stuff, and it keeps all your gummy bears and power bars thawed, as opposed to trying to bite into a power bar at -30, right? I've seen people break their teeth before out there. So it happens, yeah. And then gear-wise, just go back one. Yep, thanks. Just gear-wise on the front would be either their sleeping bag and their sleep system, or some more clothing. And then on the back, they have more bags that they carry, extra layers, extra batteries, extra food, whatever they need. In the 200 distance, they have to carry a means to be able to boil water. So they have to boil snow, turn water into snow and boil it. And we've actually had people out there who have become so exhausted or tired that they've pulled over, ran out of water, facing they've made the call to come get picked up, but in the meantime, it could be half an hour to an hour, right? So they've actually boiled water to rehydrate themselves and keep going. So a lot of people kind of smirk at that and they laugh. Some people who are into cycling, and they just kind of don't realize that when it goes the wrong way out there on the trail, it can go the wrong way pretty fast at -30. So that's why we implement this type of gear that the riders have to have in the 200 kilometer. The 100 kilometer, they need a sleep system, but they don't need to be able to boil the water. Yeah. Just a typical face that finishes. Completely stunned out of it, and great big frosty beard. Any questions at all?
Thank you so much. Council, any questions, comments for Cameron? Good. Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, I learned a lot, that's for sure. I can't see myself participating in it, but these are the type of activities that we certainly like to see and endorse in our community. I'm glad to see Whitewater snowgoers up there. I was actually on the trail, I think 2 years ago. Was the last one run maybe 2 years ago? Or do you do it every year?
It's every year, yep.
Oh. I think the last time I ran my sled maybe was 2 years ago, as we didn't have enough snow last year.
Yeah, the trail was pretty much bare last year.
Right.
That's why the fastest times recorded were last year for the event, for the 200K. Yeah.
I was interested to see the responses if anybody encountered any activity on the trails. I know as a snowmobiler, I went by several of them, and both sides were very courteous. The snowmobiles all slowed down to within a crawl, and the bikers all moved over. So yep. Anybody that I saw was very courteous both ways. So I was just curious to see that. So good information. It
is good. I can think of one year, just a few years ago, there was an incident with a snowmobiler who was just going back and forth on the same group, not being so courteous, maybe spitting up a bit of snow and ice, that sort of thing. But the riders promptly called the OPP and let them know. And I don't know what came of it, but they said when the phone came out and the person saw that the call was being made, they promptly disappeared. But other than that, I agree with you. It's always been very good. And oddly enough, and if you're somewhat familiar with the Skidoo trails, when they groom, there's always a foot or two on the far right, on each side, and that's quite often the hardest, best line to ride. So being to the far right when you're riding is typically the best spot because the Skidoos don't go right to the edge, and it's the fastest and smoothest, hardest line, and that's what you want, right? Yeah. So it works out great.
Just a last question, is this any kind of a sanctioned event?
No.
Like, is there, no, there's no body or governing body or anything like that?
No,
Just
there's
you
not.
mentioned one guy was a professional rider.
Yeah, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of events similar to this, not all in the winter time, but summer too, just bike packing events they'd be called. Some are upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers long, right? So there's one called Tour Divide from Banff, Alberta to the New Mexico border. That's 4,500 kilometers long. It's probably one of the most popular ones, and it happens in early June every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe when I retire.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the comment, though. I appreciate it. It's a fantastic community event. A lot of local riders come out too, and they enjoy it a lot. So,
Any other questions from council? Good. Councillor Moore.
No question, just a comment. I'd just like to say thank you for putting yourself out there and doing this for how many years? It's quite a number of years now. For
yeah,
fat
just over
biking.
10 now, I think
Yeah.
we are. Yep.
So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's a
Thank
benefit
you.
to the townships that you do this. It brings people in that we would never see, so thank you.
Very welcome. I plan to keep doing it.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Cameron, I'll just throw one question at you. Is there any support that you wish you had from the township that you don't have at this point in time?
One thing I see at the other events that happen similar to this one, like the Arrowhead, is just getting a banner up across the main street about the event, which can be provided. It's just a matter of getting it up there, something like that. Or if there's a bulletin, the big street sign board that the township has access to, that sort of thing, just to welcome the riders into the community.
Yeah. CAO, is that something that's possible?
I think we've examined the banner across the road before. We could certainly look into that if you'd like. I'm not sure if we have a mobile sign of sorts, but we could certainly speak to local providers on the highway. For example, Kruger Signs has signs. Maybe we could put a little message through that mechanism. Thanks.
That's great, thank you. I think the OFSC does a good job promoting it through their local clubs too, just to make all the trail users aware that the event's happening on that weekend as well. So, yeah, and just to know that the trail was closed last year during that time because of the lack of snow. That's why there was no snowmobiles. Yeah, very few. Yeah.
Are we going to sign you up though for retirement? Is that, yeah, okay, yeah. Good. Well, if there's no other questions from council, Cameron, thank you so much for taking the time to come and brief us today. It's
You're welcome.
important. As Councillor Moore has already said, thank you for doing this for 10 years and continuing to do it. We appreciate what it does in terms of bringing people from outside the community in and being able to enjoy our beautiful natural landscape that we have. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Good.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Excellent. And that moves on to our next item on the agenda, which is 6.2, Cogeco Communications. We're getting a project update from Mitchell Johnson. And I believe it's going to be virtual.
I don't have my mic on. Is yours on?
Yep. Here.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Mitchell. Can you hear? Oh, there we. Okay. Can you see us? Okay. Can you see the presentation? Sorry. Oh, not yet.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Mitchell. I'll get you to introduce yourself and your team member there, and we'll get your presentation up when you're ready. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us. My name is Mitchell Johnson. I'm the manager for network strategy for Cogeco in Ontario. And I'm joined today with my colleague, Chanel, who is one of our coordinators for network expansion. And we're here today to provide an update on the ASEP project that we have ongoing through Whitewater region to give council and residents an update as to how progress is going, as well as to announce an additional initiative that we have in the area.
I think they're just getting your presentation organized here.
Yeah, so just have it so
this and extend it. Duplicate. And now you should be able to go back. Yeah, and keep changes. And now
Sorry.
bring it up. Yep.
Okay. Can you see it? Yeah.
Good, you can see it, and it's up here. Thank you. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Thank you very much. We can actually just jump right to slide 4, I think. So with all these presentations, I always like to kind of start with sort of where we were, so we can kind of highlight the growth that Cogeco is kind of undertaking in each area. So to date, our network in the Whitewater region has been mainly centered around the communities of Cobden and Beachburg. Within those communities, have about 900 premises, so homes and businesses that have been able to subscribe to our services. We can flip to the next slide. Previously, in those communities, we were limited to what's called one-way connectivity. So a one-way service is where Cogeco can send a signal to a community, but we can't get one back. So that allows us to provide plenty of television options, but it doesn't really do us a lot of good in terms of offering video on demand, high-speed internet, and features like that. So that was a limitation that we had up until 2023, when we undertook a network upgrade initiative in those communities. And as of now, with the exception of a few small areas that we're wrapping up, all of the homes in those 2 communities can now subscribe to Cogeco Internet with download speeds up to 1 gigabit per second. So that was an initiative that we kind of undertook ourselves as a bit separate from ASIP, but it was a long time coming to get those established areas upgraded, so we can make sure that we have broadband not only in the rural areas we're going to talk about, but also in some of the town centers where Cogeco has already kind of been established. So with that said, we'll talk about the ASIP program. So ASIP stands for Accelerated High-Speed Internet Program, and it is a major broadband subsidy initiative from the province of Ontario. Probably one of the largest, I think, in certainly the province's history, if not the country's history, with the goal of trying to provide broadband access to as close to 100% of homes across Ontario as possible. And through that process, they initiated what's called a reverse auction, where all the ISPs can bid to try to receive subsidies for an area in order to kind of demonstrate their ability to successfully serve, expand, and reach some of the more rural areas that are really in need of high-speed internet services. So through that process, which was carried out in 2021, Cogeco was the successful recipient for one of the lots in the Renfrew area. The province itself got divided into, I believe it was 93 different geographic lots, and in some cases, counties kind of got segmented. So in our case, our lot was primarily around East Renfrew County, between Arnprior and De Riviere, and encompassing much of Whitewater region. So when we completed our analysis, looked at areas where residents do not currently have the CRTC minimum standard of 50 megabit per second internet, we currently have a projection of about 650 rural premises in Whitewater region that are shown in green on the map there to the left, that when all is said and done, are going to have access to our fiber to the home gigabit symmetrical services, as well as our IPTV television services as well. And perfect. So the good news is, not only is work underway, but we actually have some of our first homes now serviceable. So to date, and this is a couple weeks old, so it might be a little bit higher now, 79 of the target premises in Whitewater region now have access to our services. And I'm happy to say that of those 79, 23 residents have already subscribed, which is fantastic. We'll be continuing with a progressive rollout in Whitewater region from now until the end of August is the current projection. The way that we complete our rollouts is that for our fiber networks, we require something called an OLT, or an optical line terminal. And each OLT can service a geographic area as well as a set number of homes. And what we do is as each OLT is connected, powered, and ready to go, and we can start bringing service to individual houses, that section of residents will then be added to, or those addresses will be added to our system as ready to serve, and we can then make services available. So in some cases, one part of the Whitewater region might get service available, say in May, and another might be June or July, just because of which OLT that's being served by. Barring any unforeseen delays, though, this means that we expect that all homes within the ASIP scope of work should be able to sign up for services in Whitewater region by the end of summer this year. So we've really made a lot of headway. Even through the winter months, we've been doing a lot of really great work with our planning team and our contractors, and the great working relationship we have with the team at Whitewater region. It's really helped make this a really great initial push to get these homes online. And we're really excited to get everyone connected. I will add, it's not on the slide, but sometime either this week or next week, the next batch of residents, as well as the first batch, because we didn't have this in place just yet, are actually going to receive a letter in the mail advising them that their address will be ready in the next couple of months. So it's kind of like a coming soon letter. On it is a link to our website where residents can put in their address and actually sign up for updates, as well as to be immediately notified as soon as their address is ready to receive service. So that way, if you want to be first in line, you want to get set up right away, we will actually email you day of, once that network is live to your particular residence. Okay, perfect. Oh, I did make a slide for it. Perfect. So yeah, so that's covered off here. So effectively, the website is cogeco.ca/network expansion. So you can kind of see what the page looks like there to the right. When you put in your address, you have the option to sign up for updates, and we'll email you if you give us your information. If not, you don't have to worry. We will also send a letter in the mail to those addresses that don't sign up for an email, letting you know that we're ready to go and you can give us a call to sign up. Okay, so this part I'm really excited about. So in addition to our ASIP project, which is ongoing for this year, Cogeco is actually in the initial stages of a separate project, totally separated from ASIP or other subsidy initiatives, to actually bring services to about 70 premises in Foresters Falls. So Foresters Falls is a community that we've engaged with previously. We've heard a lot of interest from residents in the past about getting services. And now with some of the newer technology available, things like remote OLTs that don't necessarily require, a direct plug-in at like our head-end facilities, and just all the other major improvements that have come to fiber over the last 10 years, we've now been able to put together a business case to actually get these residents online and connected. So as I said, this is actually completely independent from ASIP or other broadband. This is solely funded by Cogeco as part of our annual growth initiatives. And it's a fairly small project, so it's not a lot of homes. And so if all goes well, our goal is to actually have everything wrapped up and active by the end of this year. So in addition to all the great news elsewhere in the region, the community of Foresters Falls by the end of 2025 should also be ready to go for high-speed broadband internet. And with that all being said, so my colleague Chanel is responsible for our team network inbox. So NEP stands for Network Expansion Projects. So NEP at cogeco.com. That is our sort of main community inbox for any questions or concerns. If you have any looking for any specific updates, or if you have any inquiries, please feel free to send us an email. Chanel actually manages that for us directly. And if there's any questions that she can't answer directly, she knows exactly who to go to. So she'll be able to track that down for you and get back to you with any details you might need. So with that said, I think I kept to my 10 minutes. I think I did okay. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks so much, Mitchell. Yeah, you were dead on time here. Even with the delay getting the slides up, you were right on time. So thank you for that. I'll open it up to council first for questions. So any members of council, any questions? Good. Good. I've got a couple. First one is just, I know you commented on it before, your relationship with our staff in terms of, I'm assuming it's Public Works. Is there any hiccups? Is there any problems that you're having with making sure that we have access to the either county roads or municipal roads in terms of laying down this line?
No, actually, honestly, it's been a fantastic working relationship. We had some recent discussions with regards to private roads, which Whitewater Region staff has gratefully helped us try to figure out resolutions for. One of the challenges we've had in other projects with private roads is when you have multiple ownership stakes along the same road, we have to basically get buy-in from each homeowner along the way. And if, for whatever circumstances, a homeowner doesn't want to give us an easement or access to cross their property, it can impact any other homes beyond their property from getting service. So we did bring that up as a potential concern. It's something that we'll kind of get into more probably in the spring and summer once the thaw hits, and we'll have a better sense as to where we might be getting some pushback. Whitewater Region staff has been very accommodating in trying to help find resolutions in those cases as well. So it's been great.
Excellent. That's perfect. I just encourage you to keep those communications up. I know, especially as you do that final, I want to say the last mile, but that's not exactly true, but just as you're going through those private roads, and we have a number of them, if there are problems, please let us know right away, because I'm sure we'll find out about them. Good. My second question is just about, and I receive this all the time, I live in the area that a lot of the expansion is occurring, is how can I confirm if my address is going to get access? How is that available online where you can put in your address and confirm whether or not you'll have that option? Or you'll have to wait for the letter?
So the website, cogeco.ca/network expansion. It is still a bit of a work in progress. Addresses get added to it as the final design and permits go in for each area. So it is a little bit piecemeal. But as that is done, the addresses get loaded in. So you can go in and check, and you'll get a confirmation stating that either, unfortunately we can't service your address, or great news, we're coming soon. Love this form to be kept in the loop and to be contacted once we're available. In the event that someone puts their address in, they're confident that based on the Ontario broadband map and things like that, they should be included. If it's not working, they can always reach out to that nep@cogeco.com email. And Chanel and I are always happy to look into it and get back to them.
That's perfect. Okay, good. I'm just going to ask staff if there's any questions, but before that, I just want to confirm. Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of questions regarding the service, and I don't understand all the speeds and that kind of stuff. Would this be considered fiber optic?
Yes, so for all of the net new that we're building, so in Beachburg and Cobden, that was an upgrade done to our existing coax network. So that remained cable-based service. But all this new network that we're building is all fiber to the home. So it's straight fiber optics the whole way.
So this would be cable, internet, I guess people that connect by telephone.
Yes, so what we can offer is, so internet obviously, high speed. We will offer television through our Epico IPTV service. So that's television over the internet. Since it's fiber, it doesn't use the traditional broadcast cable. So we have this alternative IPTV solution to provide that. It has all the same channels, and it actually has a lot of enhanced features, kind of over and above classic cable. As the other service that we do offer in some areas is our voice over IP phone service. That is a bit dependent on the phone licensing restrictions in certain areas. So that it might be a bit hit or miss depending on if we're licensed to be able to provide that. But TV and internet, definitely for sure.
I know in a couple of these areas, like Foresters Falls, where the cell service is not very good there, and in some places it's absent. I know that's a concern from Foresters Falls. So the ability to connect by telephone is a pretty good service.
For sure. And in any event, for whatever reason, we can't provide it directly. With fiber optic internet, you have what's called a symmetrical connection. So if you choose our 1 gigabit package, it's actually gigabit speeds both ways. So that makes it really versatile if you use like a third-party voice over IP service. That's also available, and that would be a great supplement to things like cell phones if they have spotty signal that way.
Right.
That's going to really help with their connectivity that way as well.
Super. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions from council? Seeing that, I'll ask staff, is there anything that you want to ask or highlight?
So Mitchell, it's Ivan speaking. So the one thing you noted when we met before today's session was where residents are not providing the hookup directly to the home. Cogeco is installing sort of a small section so that in the future it's easily done. So maybe you could just briefly speak about that. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, so in the event that, either due to the installation type or ground conditions at the time during winter, or if a resident isn't looking to get connected immediately, what we do is instead of bringing the fiber directly to the side of the home, if we can't make contact with the resident, what we do is we install what's called a Toby box, which is just a small little box at the property line to the municipal right-of-way. And we leave effectively the fiber access point there so that if a resident later on wants to get service, it's as easy as us interconnecting with what's there and bringing a fiber feed to the side of the home. In some cases, if it's going to be a buried connection, that is going to often start as what's called a temp line, where we run it sort of overground to get you connected, and then we arrange for someone to come back to bury it. Or if you have like pole lines on your property, or if you're served aerial for your other infrastructure, they'll instead run it up the pole and bring it aerial to your home along with your other utilities.
Good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, Mitchell, you and your teammate. I've lost the name already. I apologize. Chanel? Yes, thank both of you sorry, go ahead. Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I'm horrible with names. Yes, thanks for taking the time today. It is an important issue in the community, opportunity. So the more information we can share via this means is great. So thank you for taking the time today to do that.
No, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having us. Feel free as well to post that email address on your website or in your minutes. We're always happy to answer any questions from residents as well, and keep everyone up to date as we get this rolled out through 2025.
Yeah. And very exciting. Thank you for that great news.
No problem. Thank you so much for having us. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Excellent. And that concludes item 6 on the agenda. We'll move on to item number 7, which is the mayor's address, and I've got some prepared comments. Since our last council meeting on January 15th, I attended Roma conference with councillors Tabbert, Olmsted, Moore, and Trim. Then I took a short holiday, returning last week. And thanks to all of those who attended different events or meetings in my absence. Very much appreciated. And just a couple things that I'll highlight today. First, on behalf of council, I want to recognize the retirement of our MPP, John Yakabuski. He has done so much, and I want to thank him not only for everything that he's done for Whitewater, but for the greater community. His vision, his leadership, his commitment to the residents has been second to none. And we wish him and his family well in this new chapter of their life. Thank you very much, John. So sad to see someone go with all of that experience, but that's okay. When the elections are done, we'll just break in the new guy or girl, I'm not even sure. Excellent. Second item, I just want to highlight some things about our budget. And I will note that staff have prepared an outstanding insert for the current that provides some additional information on the budget. I'm only going to highlight some of that. but that current will come out to all the, to the ratepayers. Our budget has been set for the coming year. We've directed no more than 2.9% increase in operating, a 4.2% increase in capital reinvestment, and a 3% increase in the water and wastewater rates. So a very productive budget process. A lot of our operating costs have been a direct result of the increase in the OPP, which is great to see because we have been able to keep our operating costs pretty constant without having to decrease our level of service. The challenge area remains our capital reinvestment into our roads, our buildings, and our fleet. There remains a large deficit in capital funds, and the money that we know we will need as most of our infrastructure ages out. So we opted just for a modest increase of 4.2% for capital, and this will ensure that we have sufficient funds to address the most critical projects for this coming year. However, we do know we can't address everything and will continue to advocate for provincial and federal investments. The province has supported our efforts with respect to water and wastewater by committing to an increase in annualized funding for water and wastewater capital, and this has allowed us to have the minimal increases in these rates this year. So from a budget perspective, very good news so far for 2025, and just ask those residents to take a look at that insert, and if there's any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. Finally, I just want to highlight our participation at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, the ROMA conference, where we had a chance to not only attend a number of valuable presentations, but we also had the opportunity to meet with a number of different ministries and even one provincial utility. So I'm just going to run through a quick highlight of each of these delegations so folks can appreciate the issues that we had the opportunity to advocate on. Hydro One. We met with Hydro One, their corporate planning staff, to better appreciate the electrical availability at the old location, at the location of the old Haley mine site. Currently, the province is planning some environmental remediation of that mine site, and then it could be put back on the market. We would like to formulate a long-term economic development strategy for these properties, if possible. And this initial meeting with Hydro One has helped us to better understand utility options for that site. We met with Ministry of Finance, partnering with the City of Pembroke. We met with Parliamentary Assistant Hamid to share the details of our capital infrastructure funding deficit and to advocate for additional funds for rural municipalities. We made it clear that the property tax and assessed values just cannot satisfy our deficit, and we need more money, more access to funds generated through things like sales and income taxes. We met with the Associate Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response. Again, partnering with the City of Pembroke, we met with Associate Minister Jones and asked for annualized emergency preparedness funding to help our region work together to share resources such as us sharing our water and ice rescue with the City of Pembroke, where we can be better prepared together for the next emergency, whatever it might be. We were notified there that we were successful in our grant application to purchase a mobile generator that will allow us to electrify key infrastructure on demand to support emergency operations. And I think that's in the agenda today. Yeah. Next was the Ministry of Education. I was asked to join a delegation with the County of Renfrew that met with Parliamentary Assistant Pang, where we had the opportunity to advocate for additional licensed and subsidized, the $12 a day daycare spots for rural Ontario, and specifically for here in Whitewater region. We made the case of our need and asked for the reallocation of unused spots from other regions in Ontario. I'm hoping we're going to hear more on that once the election is complete. Ministry of Colleges and Universities, we partnering again with the City of Pembroke. We met with Minister Quinn to discuss options to build up our rural workforce to make sure that we can attract and retain members of the skilled workforce to fill both key roles in our municipal and the private sectors. So productive first opportunity to meet with Minister Quinn. Met with Minister of Infrastructure. So again, partnering with the City of Pembroke and the Town of Arnprior, we met with Parliamentary Assistant Sandhu, who I think this was our 5th meeting with PA Sandhu. He's very familiar with our water and wastewater situation, but in this delegation we focused on advocating again for capital funding for all of our assets and advocating for the assistance with our infrastructure deficit. We're very thankful. We thanked him very much for the increases allocated for our water and wastewater systems, but simply stated, said that there's still a significant gap. that property taxpayers just cannot afford. Minister of Agriculture, partnering with the County of Renfrew, we met with Minister Flack, who is very familiar with our area. I think he even owns farmland just around the Golden Lake area. We spoke with him about supporting agribusinesses and asked for his help to cut red tape constraining the development of agricultural sector, especially for those businesses directly accessing provincial highways. And again, a very productive meeting. Hopefully some more will follow from that. Overall, the Roma Conference provided a great opportunity for us to advocate on behalf of rural Ontario and Whitewater region. And now with the provincial election underway, it'll give us a moment to incorporate the feedback, update our plans, and be prepared for when the new government is established. And that ends my mayor's report. Is there any questions or comments from members of council? Good. Seeing none, we'll carry on. Next item is 8, public comments. Anything, clerk?
None received.
Good. And we'll move into 9, which is our reports. 9.1, the recommendation before us is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the 2025 Departmental Workplan. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Olmsted, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. It's going to the CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So council will have seen a similar report in 2024, which includes our departmental work plans. This is something we've been doing since 2021, and it's being presented to council to guide our operations for the rest of the year. So the purpose of this is to ensure that we move to implement the strategic plan of council and the council's strategic direction. So a couple sections referenced in the report, sections 229 and 227 of the Municipal Act, just speaks to the responsibilities of the CAO, but also the officers and employees to implement council's decisions and establish administrative practices and procedures. So recognizing that we serve the decisions of council, and this tool is utilized as one way to demonstrate to council and the public that we have put in place some key priority areas. So the departmental work plan covers all operational areas led by managers and supervisors. There's a total of 32 strategies, and they outline their associated activities, resources, and timing. One thing that is new for this year is that we made one key adjustment with the integration and consolidation of corporate strategies. So previously, the departmental work plan was divided amongst the different departments. However, 4 different areas were sort of included amongst those different departments. So one was human resources, health and safety, asset management, and corporate competency. So we all of our departments touched on a little bit. And the view for the team was that we would separate that out and have it as a corporate strategy. So when you get down to the table, the first one is our corporate goals. The corporate goals they aim to advance the organization as a whole and break down that departmental silo. So we have that corporate strategies, then we move into the office of the CAO and then the other departments. And then, so ultimately, we're looking for council's concurrence on the listed items there and the work plan as a whole, and we would be providing a mid-year update in August. We usually have one meeting scheduled in August, so we'd look to bring that in August for a mid-year update. If there's any questions, we'll be glad to answer them. And I look to my team that for their department, there's a councillor lead for each of the different departments, so you should maybe meet with the councillor lead on occasion to review them and see where you're at and see where you're progressing and see where we need to put more attention. Thanks so much.
Thank you, CAO. I'll go to the mover first. Councillor Olmsted, any questions or comments?
No, I mean, it's a lot to take in. I reviewed it before coming here, but I want some more time to kind of go over the details of it. But a very robust list.
Good, thank you. And Councillor Tabbert, seconder.
Councillor Olmsted said it all, thanks.
Good. Any other questions from other 2 members? Yeah, Councillor Trim.
Yes, as the CAO just suggested, that it's a good idea for the leads to meet with the departments. And I must say that over the years that I've been doing this, that has always happened. And I'm very pleased with the information that is brought to me. And yeah, so if that's happening now, and I for one, and I'm sure it's happening to all the leads, all councillors, I'm very pleased that it is happening. Going through this list is very comprehensive, and you know, it looks like a lot of work. I think I'm going to print it, if that's okay, because every now and again I get sometimes disgruntled residents that wonder what staff are doing, and I can pull this out and they can take a look at what staff is doing, and I don't have to convince them then. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. No other comments? Good. I echo the same thing. I had to print it off. So to go through it, it is very comprehensive. There's one acronym that I didn't catch, and I wonder if anybody else understood it. I see Superintendent Nicholson here, so it's probably going to be hers. WHPAs, page 4 of 7. Wellhead protection areas. Excellent. Okay. Sorry, what was your question? Oh, yeah. It was just me. I didn't know. No, it's good. I see that in conjunction with the hydro-G studies and nitrate impact studies. I like those too, those expected results, both in community development. So interesting that they're there and not Public Works, but okay, good. Trigger, any other questions? Councillor Trim, yep.
Know that a lot of these things I'm going to sit down and ask offline. But one thing that intrigued me was defensive driving training. And I'm just wondering, I think it's very, very important because we've got a lot of vehicles on the road, and it's good to keep up those skills. And I'm just wondering if we coordinate with other municipalities or with the county, or do we have some sort of an instructor consultant come in to do our own staff?
Good, CAO.
So I'll just provide a brief detail on that. So we did have a conversation earlier this week with the leadership team, but with our joint health and safety committee, one of the things they're discussing are these, they called them, what do you call that on the back of a truck? Tailgate talks. So quick lessons that you could have a conversation with your employees, one of which could be defensive driving, or just you know, the circle of your vehicle and the like. Commonly what we'll do is internally, if it's a more coordinated approach with an instructor, then we might look at our neighboring communities to see if we could have economies of scale. But with our 4S program that we were sort of in the process of implementing, and these sort of one-off quick 15-minute discussions with staff, that would be done internally. But when it's more coordinated, externally with neighbors, if we could. Good.
Councillor Trim.
I think it was answered. I just wondered if this was one strategy to reduce our workers' compensation fees or bill, and if that helps with that.
So you're exactly right. So part of the program we started into, which is the WSIB Excellence Program, requires us to do certain things to meet certain guidelines. This is one of them, to do safety trainings and other aspects, all within the 4S program. They kind of guide us through. We're already seeing a discount this year for our WSIB rates. We went from a 3.2 rate down to a 2.98. That's on $100,000 worth of salary. It's about a $15,000 savings this year, just with them recalculating the rates, because we had already started the program before and them reactivating it. And we had talked about this whenever we implemented the actual start of the program, the actual cost of the program yearly versus what we're actually going to save with WSIB when we complete the actual program far outweighs the actual cost of the program. And the benefits to the employees side is that everybody will be up to date, and us as supervisors and you as council will know that the staff that are all under you know that they're up to date and on track. And once we've completed, we'll become a WSIB excellence employer, which we can actually advertise as. So it's a lofty goal, but we're well on our way to getting to that position.
Excellent. Councillor Moore.
Just one thing that just came to mind, and we may have covered this last year, but thinking about the recycling change in July, that's not here. So is that covered in last year's work plan?
It is, and we're just sort of starting to tidy things up, finish up that sort of stuff in the next month or so. You'll have some reports coming forward to me shortly, and then it'll close out. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Is there any other questions? So I'll just reiterate again how much information is in this package. I think it's excellent. I encourage everybody to take a printed copy of it, and the leads to sit down with the managers to go through and get into the detail above it. We could have a very long discussion about any one of these items. So this is good. This is the implementation of our strategic plan down into the nuts and bolts of actually what work is being done. So take a second to review it. If there's any questions, please come through the leads and then back to council. Good. With that being said, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Next one, 9.2 is our Beachburg Boil Water Advisory Review. So the recommendation is the Council of the Township Whitewater Region receive this report for information purposes, summarizing the events of January 1st, 2025 that led to the issuance of a boil water advisory for the Beachburg drinking water distribution system. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Trim. And this is going to Superintendent Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as you mentioned, the purpose of my report today is to provide an overview and some analysis of the recent Beachburg water main break and the subsequent boil water advisory. So while we don't typically do larger reviews or debriefs with all parties involved with water main breaks, this break ultimately led to a boil water advisory. And these events, which are thankfully much more rare than simple water main breaks, have led staff to felt, and we felt that it was important to review the events to document the key actions and lessons that were learned with an aim to improve our preparedness and response strategies for any future emergencies. So this report will also serve as a record to inform our stakeholders and the public so that they can be ensured that they are well informed and confident in the measures that were taken during that water main break to address the situation and to ensure that there's confidence in the Beachburg drinking water system, that the township will continue to provide safe, clean water for all our users. So in my written report, I included a very detailed timeline of the events that occurred on January 1st. And in respect of everybody's time here today, I'm going to provide a higher level view on that, but I do encourage everybody to take a look if you have further interest in the written report for the finer details. But to dive into just sort of an overview of January 1st, so at around 5:40 on the evening of January 1st, the Whitewater Fire Department received a notification about a structure fire on Zion Line, and around 6:10 p.m. they began to pull water from fire hydrants on Beachburg Road to fill the water tankers. At 8:35, records from our Beachburg water treatment plant SCADA system began to show that the water pressure in the system had been completely lost. And shortly thereafter, at about 8:55, Aqua's operators arrived on site and found that all of the high lift pumps at the water treatment plant were not in operation. And one thing to be noted here that on the night of January 1st, the weather conditions were extremely poor. There was very heavy blowing snow at the time and the roads were in really terrible conditions. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that the response times and everything that everything that was undertaken that night was under the guise of very limited visual conditions outside. So at 9:50 p.m., Aqua had determined that the loss of pressure in the distribution system warranted the issuance of a precautionary boil water advisory. And that shortly thereafter, at 9:57, the township posted the precautionary boil water advisory to our website and social media. So the difference between a precautionary boil water advisory is that was a call that was made on behalf of by Aqua and the township. And you'll see further on that when the health unit gets in, that kind of changes a bit. So at this point, staff were suspecting that there was a water main break, but that was likely, but the location had been yet to be identified. So shortly thereafter, around 10:25, the Renfrew County Health District Health Unit responded to Aqua. Now, the health unit actually has an after-hours reporting line that is at the hospital. So sometimes when we report these incidents to them, it takes them a little bit of time to get back to us. So it was about an hour between them, the time that it was reported by Aqua and the health unit responded. And at that time, they issued a formal boil water advisory. And required that the township hand deliver notices to all of the affected users. So at this point, it became a formal thing as opposed to an immediate step that Aqua felt was necessary. At 10:50, the location of the water main break was identified at 1940 in front of 1944 Beachburg Road. So of note, there have been at least 2 previous water main breaks in this location, or near to this location. One this past fall, and there was also another one reported. The homeowner at 1936 Beachburg Road also reported that there had been one in front of their property in the previous 10 years. So we've had a few in this very small area in the past. At approximately midnight, between discussions with Aqua and the fire department, it was determined that the fire department had pulled approximately 120 cubic meters of water from the distribution system during their firefighting activities. And Aqua identified that a total of approximately 380 cubic meters had actually been lost from the system, meaning that 260 cubic meters, a large portion of the water that was lost, was a result of the water main break. Also at this point, staff began to print the notices that would eventually be hand-delivered to residents. At 1:47 a.m., the township issued our first news release regarding the formal boil water advisory. By 3 a.m., fire department personnel had finished hand-delivering delivery notices to all residents of approximately 550 residences, sorry. And by 4:55 a.m., the repair to the water main break was completed, and by 5 a.m., the system began to be repressurized. By 6:35, the system was fully repressurized, and Aqua was able to now begin flushing surrounding hydrants to remove any possible contamination from the break and to ensure that the chlorine disinfection levels were appropriate in the system. 4 hours later, at 10 a.m., the first round of biological samples that were collected were submitted to the laboratory in Ottawa for analysis. And the following day, at 11:43 on January 3rd, the second round of samples were delivered. So one important thing that happens during larger breaks such as this is that we have to collect biological samples to ensure that that there was nothing that had gotten into the system that could be of concern. So, and essentially this is the ultimate reason for a boil water advisory to ensure that nobody gets sick from anything like total coliforms or E. coli. So on the same day, on January 4th, January 3rd, the first round of samples were returned showing 0 results for E. coli and total coliforms. And then on the following day, on January 4th, the second set of samples were returned at around 1:15 in the afternoon to show that everything was clear. And very shortly thereafter, at 1:30, the health unit notified the township that the boil water advisory would be rescinded, and immediately the township's website and social media channels released news that the water system was safe to be used and didn't need to be boiled anymore. So in the following week, on January 8th, the township staff felt that it was a great idea to host a debrief meeting with all of the parties that were involved in the response. This meeting included key township staff from Public Works, the Whitewater Fire Department, the Health Unit, as well as the Ontario Clean Water Agency. And the meeting was also joined by Councillor Tabbert as an observer. Some of the key highlights from the meeting included, which started with a discussion with the health unit. So through the health unit's manager of healthy environments, Dave Tantalo, he informed us that the medical officer of health had stated to him that, in his opinion, the township and Aqua did an exemplary job in responding to this event. The health unit staff stated that they didn't receive any calls or complaints from residents following the water main break or the boil water advisory, and which is good news because that means our messaging got out. And that's the key thing that we want to make sure in these events happens, that everybody finds out about it as quickly as possible. Overall, throughout the meeting, the general consensus was that the response from Aqua, the township and fire department staff to the break and the boil water advisory was very well executed. The health unit stated that it was also appropriate that Aqua and the township made the call to issue the precautionary boil water advisory right away and not wait for them to issue the formal advisory. So that's something that getting confirmation from them was great to hear, that we made the right call in the instant, in the moment, to make sure that everybody was notified immediately. So following with the discussion with the health unit, Aqua township staff and the fire department moved into a more technical discussion of the night's events. And so just a few details on what was discussed was that the water main section that failed, it was determined that it was installed in 1986, meaning that this water main is approximately 39 years old and is made of ductile iron. Most information sources will show that ductile iron should typically have a lifespan of 100 years or more. And the township understands that at least that this is at least the third time that this section of water main has failed. So the section of water main that's failing is failing much earlier than would be expected. An investigation into the break has led staff to question the condition of the water main itself in this area. So we've discovered that based on the way the pipe broke in the most recent break, which was a blowout, as opposed to a circumferential break, I can't pronounce that word, I'm sorry. It's leading staff to believe that there could be some issues related to pressure fluctuations. And therefore, staff are recommending that a pressure monitor, such as a smart hydrant, could be installed in the area to monitor for any unusual pressure fluctuations that could be occurring to help identify the cause of the multiple water main breaks that have occurred. It is likely that another water main break could occur in this area in the future if the cause isn't ultimately determined. So it is an important thing for us to follow up on to determine what exactly is happening out there. Lastly, the staff discussed the question of, well, why was the fire department using the Beachburg water distribution system in the first place as their source of water for a fire that had occurred outside of Beachburg? So the fire chief explained that the distribution systems in Cobden and Beachburg are pressurized, which is important because it allows the fire tankers to be filled significantly faster than they could be at a dry hydrant, such as the one at Little Lakes. And especially this is especially important during winter months when things are frozen. So during the emergency events, this pressurization can make all the difference in the department's response times. Additionally, the 2024 Water and Wastewater Task Force report made a recommendation, which was number 3.4, that the fire department pay for access to year-round water, with this revenue being directed to the water budget. So, beginning in 2025, $10,000 is being transferred from the general taxation budget to the water budget in order to account for the costs associated with providing the fire department year-round access to the distribution systems. And that money is for the production of water used to fight fires outside of Cobden and to account for the wear and tear on the associated water systems. So, in summary, from the meeting, we identified that there were 8 opportunities for improvement that staff believe we should bring forward. And the first included, as I mentioned, the installation of a smart hydrant, which is used to monitor water pressures within the distribution system. So it's a pretty cool little thing. It's a little add-on to specific fire hydrants, and it'll show in real time the pressures in the system. So that's one starting spot we can use to look to see if there's a pressure-related cause to what's causing our water main breaks. A second item that we identified was that we always need to ensure that employee contact information is updated regularly. It was January 1st, on the night of January 1st, when many people were still on holidays, and getting a hold of people at nighttime is always fun. So ensuring that we have everybody's up-to-date address, phone numbers, and those sorts of things is an important step that we can be taking. Another item was identifying that additional employees could be provided access to the township's website and social media channels to allow for backup coverage in case the primary employees, if they're away on holidays or away due to illness. One thing that came up in discussions through the health unit was the consideration of a phone or text-based communication service to allow the township to communicate situations such as this directly with residents rather than or in addition to the hand-delivered notices. Another recommendation has been to install a cell phone booster at the Beachburg water treatment plant. As I'm sure everybody is aware, the cell phone coverage in that area is rather poor. So it made for some tricky communications that night, and such adding a cell phone booster might help us there. The next one was to have some door knockers. So you can imagine the little things that you can hang on door notices with the boil water notices pre-printed so that they could be produced in advance, which would cut down on printing time delays during that night. So for instance, I responded to the Beachburg plant and then had to drive back and forth several times with the printed notices to deliver them back and forth during a snowstorm. So anything we can do to cut down on that sort of thing will cut down on those key minutes. Another thing that was identified was that formal notices such as the boil water advisory should be quote unquote shared when communicating on social media as opposed to being somebody creating a new post. The fire department did a great job in getting the word out through their Facebook account, but just to ensure some consistent messaging, we're looking for if a formal notice is developed by the township that could be shared as opposed to be retyped. And lastly, we identified that we need to ensure that we're providing the fire department with some up-to-date mapping and to identify through discussions the optimal places where the fire department can be pulling from the system. First off, to ensure that they're getting the highest pressure to fill as quickly as possible, but also to be avoiding any problematic areas that we've identified. There are some financial implications with this. The cost to implement the eye hydrant a purchase, we've received a preliminary quote of between like $11,000 and $12,000, as well as, like we said, the cell phone boosters and some of the mapping updates. So staff are recommending an estimate of between $20,000 and $25,000 to be able to implement the full list of recommendations that we've found here that were identified. So that's basically the end of my report. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you. And Councillor Moore, mover.
A lot happened in such a short order and a most inopportune time. I understand that. I was in the middle of it watching out my window. Thank you to Deanna and Lane and Jonathan for a work well done. We were lucky to have our water back by 6 a.m. or whatever the time was. Fortunately, there was no health effects, to my knowledge, from the water system. So all has turned out good in the end, but certainly there's more work to be done and would like to proceed with that hydrant issue for checking on the pressure. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Trim, seconder.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Superintendent Nicholson. The high lift pumps, is there any quick explanation as to why they didn't reset?
The quick explanation is that, I mean, maybe perhaps I'll leave it to late.
Yes, we believe that there was a interlock to the high lift pump, so when it blows a certain pressure, the pump will lock out. In the current SCADA, we are part of the Beachburg water plant upgrades. We are changing the whole SCADA out, which is the computer system that will run the plant, and we're investigating why that was built that way for the new one.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the treasurer, Mr. McGonigal, will we be able to manage this new $20,000 expense with our current budget?
So at this current point, there's a good portion of money that's being set aside for reserves for this year. So in order to kind of attribute this new emergency reserve or emergency purchase, the recommendation could come as either a flow through through the reserve and just be recuperated in the new year, like 2026, having set, because the rates have been set and the bills are going out for water in the coming month. Just to avoid having to change that increased piece for 2025, and then we just would incorporate that into the 2026 budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Any other questions? Councillor Olmsted?
Thank you, Mayor. Whoever wants to answer it, what are the chances we would not have found this break if the fire department did not hook into a fire hydrant and withdrawn water?
To that. So the water main break wasn't found until after. Myself personally drove by it, and numbering even Aqua personnel drove by a few times. But the one staff member went and looked, and it was blown out and it was found. It was difficult with the weather conditions and being on nighttime, but it was found, and it wasn't the case that the one lesson learned that we found was, at first we deemed it, that it was related to the fire department, but in hindsight we should have stated that there was a precaution boil water advisor and don't provide a why until we can investigate the issue.
So in further, just the comment I see in the report, staff stated it is likely that another water main break will occur in the area in the future if the cause is not determined. So what are the next steps there?
Yeah, so determine that, for example, we had a water main break in Cobden on Monday, but this water main break that happened with caused boil water is quite different. It was actually with a blowout versus like a crack. That's one thing staff are looking at is putting pressure gauges or with the smart hydrant to determine what is the pressure. Is determining, is it certain valves being closed too quick, or is the pumps coming on? And also, is it the main itself? It is only 38 years old, but potentially it's in bad condition. So one option we're going to look at is potentially taking a section out and getting it tested. But yeah, so staff are working through why, because it has happened, I believe it's 2 or 3 times in the last few years.
And all 3 breaks have been within about 100 meters of each other, so they're pretty confined to one section of pipe.
And if I may, so do they all have the same circumstances surrounding them where there's been low pressure? So I'm envisioning low pressure, barely any water running through the pipes collapsing because of no pressure in the pipes.
Unfortunately, the previous 2 breaks, we didn't have photographic evidence to be able to see what the break looked like. However, I guess maybe it's the opposite of what you're envisioning. We're envisioning that it's potentially high pressure, like water hammer, the way the blowout sort of initially on the surface appears from the photos. Right. It is a very long, linear system, whereas, for instance, Cobden's a little more circular, rounded. This is the end of the line, and you can imagine opening and closing valves, pumps coming on at the opposite end of town. You're sort of be getting that sort of push and pull. And that's the reason why we're hoping, we're wanting to see if the eye hydrant can show we might be getting pressure spikes that are sort of like giving that hit that could be leading to this type of break that we're seeing. I don't know if that fills it in a little bit more.
Yep, it does. And lastly, staff will really be commended on the response time. January 1st, I remember the weather being terrible. So I've heard a lot of people in Beachburg are very thankful that it was rectified so quickly. So pass that on. Thank you.
Good. Any other members of council? I'll go to Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, like it says in the report, I was at the debriefing and it was very informative. Living in Beachburg, I was one of the people who was affected, and I had several people reach out to me as a counselor and say, what's going on? And it was unfortunate that there were many miscommunications happening, such as blaming it on the fire department. But in the end, following the debriefing, I think everything was well done. The report is excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate the work that went into it. And the question I do have following up on Councillor Olmsted is the pipe, is it, like if it's supposed to last 100 years, do we have like a warranty or anything on these things? Or if it is bad, like bad piping or something?
There wouldn't be any warranty. It is almost halfway through its life expectancy, but and causing it, we believe it's not. It's one thing. It's one of two things: that there's age or bad manufacture of the pipe, or it's a pressure-related issue that's causing it. So yes, so there is no warranty. No.
Good. Councillor Moore, you had your hand up.
Just on something Councillor Olmsted said, to clarify, this water main break involved the fire department. Coincidence? The other three, fire department was nowhere to be seen. So whether it is pumps coming on or what's happening, I did notice a drop in my pressure. I think it was Boxing Day. So I think the break actually happened Boxing Day. It just didn't show up. It was under the snow and we couldn't see it. I couldn't see it from my house. So no, the fire department was just coincidental.
What I was going to add was that the fire department doesn't necessarily like the cause of it, but as far as the volume went, we just must have, it might have just put that threshold past where the pressure got so low that, and then the high lifts also not coming back on, and the break being large enough, it was just sort of accumulation of those things that ultimately led to the boil water advisory. Whereas typically, a break doesn't necessarily lead to a boil water advisory, but this was a large enough volume that was lost that it just ultimately that's where it left.
Good, thank you. I have, Councillor Tabbert.
Just one more thing. At 1:30 in the morning, my dog was going nuts. And I'm like, what is going on? And I look outside and there's these people running up and down the street with flashlights and there's red lights. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the OPP are here. There's something going on. I want to say thank you to our volunteer firefighters who were out on that cold, blustery morning delivering these notices. I happened to open my door and when I looked down, I could see a piece of paper on the ground. So I'm like, what is this? So yeah, I can't say enough for how this whole incident was wrapped up and taken care of by our staff and our volunteer firefighters. It was, like the health unit said, it was exemplary.
Excellent. If there's no other questions. No, that's good. This is, I only have one question and then a comment. It's just, and it leads to Councillor Tabbert's point, the distribution of those notices. Had we not had the firefighters out and finishing the response to that call, what would have been the strategy to distribute that notice?
Yeah, so there's no, every system is different and every break's different. Staff kind of were trying to be proactive and kind of asked the house unit if we should go ahead and do it. I know in other occasions, other breaks or boil water is that it's not hand delivered, but I think by staff pushing that question if we should hand deliver, push that issue. One thing that we've through the task force and what we've been doing, and we actually did it on the first one case, we actually used it on Monday in the last break we had. Through the township's online sign up for the current newsletter. We also sign up for any flood related and also with if you're a water user. So if there are emergencies or any communications that we can have it by email. Then we also use our website and social media. One part of it is that came out of the debrief is looking into a mass learning, and staff have got pricing for it.
No, that's perfect. I just want to reiterate the transparency, the fullness of the report is excellent. And I think the opportunity for us to use this incident as an opportunity to kind of hot wash, review procedures, look at different things and make recommendations like this, to come up with 8 recommendations for $20,000, I think is a very reasonable approach. And I just want to thank you, the staff, the fire department, all the folks involved in this reaction, Aqua. It's exactly the type and the level of service that we want to deliver to our residents. So thank you. Good. If that doesn't trigger anything else from members of council, we will call for a vote. And again, we're just receiving this report for information purposes. So all those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Good. 9.3. Maybe we'll go through one more and then we'll take a short break. 9.3 is the recommendation that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region approve the award for a 4-ax XD72 heavy-duty mulcher to 4-ax Equipment Limited at a cost of $28,411.92, including non-refundable HST. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Moore, Councillor Olmsted. Manager of Public Works.
Yeah, thank you. In 2001, the township purchased a 4-ax boom that was placed on our 2012 John Deere grader. It was used for brushing. Well, the one piece that was for the brush cutter that purchased was more of a large brushing, which is it's 3 saw blades. And staff are looking into buying more of a brush head that will give fine brushing, very similar to what we have on our wheeled excavator. Back in 2021, staff also bought the wheel excavator, and we saw it having more of a fine brushing and also more of a coarse would be due diligence, but we found that the current brush head for that is very coarse, and we've seen, and staff has got complaints from residents that it's very coarse and it's not pretty looking. With this purchase, we got 2 quotations, one from the manufacturer and one from the supplier that we bought the boom in the first place. The staff did do quotations instead of a tender, which Section 11 our policy states that for non-cooperative bids, where it's a compatibility with existing a product, and then the purchase is within the budget amount of $30,000. Thank you.
Excellent. Mover, Councillor Moore, any comments?
Just that I'm in favor of this. For any of us that drive our township roads in the summertime when the leaves are on, you know that there's certain due diligence we have to do. So the more help we have for our employees, the better. So I'm in favor of the purchase. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Olmsted? No comments. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Trim?
Yes, I also am very much in favor of this purchase, and I understand that we're not going to get rid of the other brushing head, and this means, and these heads can be changed literally within minutes on site. And so if there is a problem with one, the other one can be put on, and there's literally no downtime or very little downtime. And as Councillor Moore has said, we need brushing to continue as much as possible, and this is a really smart way to do that. So I'm definitely in favor of it.
Excellent. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Tabbert.
I have to admit, I was one of those people who called and complained before I was a councillor about the roads. When you guys would brush, I was so upset. But I spoke to the managers then and everything was hunky-dory. And then I became a counselor, and yes, there were a few more complaints. So when I heard we were getting this, or I read up on it, and I'm like, what the heck is this thing? And the picture didn't do it any justice. So I did go and watch a video. It was very informative, I'll tell you. I was so excited for this machine because it will make our roadsides look so much nicer. I mean, it can take it down to the ground and chop it all up and grind it all up. And I've never been as excited as I have been about this, but I'll tell you. But it's important that our ditches are kept clear. We do have accidents, you know, because people can't see, and you know, we can't do it all in one day or 1 month. So I am happy to see this. I mean, everybody should go watch this machine in operation. It was so cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? Good. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. Excellent. With that, we're going to take a short recess. It's 2:55 now. We'll just go for a 5-minute washroom break. Thank you. Welcome back to the Township Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for Wednesday, February 5th. We're calling ourselves back to order here at 3:06 p.m. And we are on to item 9.4, which is the Save on Energy Small Business Program LED Lighting Grant. So the recommendation that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region approve entering into an agreement with the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO, Small Business Program, SBP, to complete LED lighting upgrades in 18 municipal buildings at a cost of $13,997.09, including non-refundable HST. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Trim. Superintendent Nicholson.
Thank you. So my report today, I'll start with some background. So the Independent Electricity System Operator, the IESO, just so you guys understand, that is a Crown corporation that's responsible for the electricity market and directing operation of the electrical system as a whole in the province of Ontario. So the IESO offers several programs that help their customers reduce their overall energy usage in order for the province as a whole to be able to meet its electricity needs. And generally that's delivered through their Save on Energy program. So that is a program that you'll often see if you go to your local home improvement store. When you purchase a light bulb, it might normally cost you $11. Under the IESO Save on Energy program, you'll get that light bulb at, say, $8. So this program, so in 2024, township staff contacted the IESO to inquire about what programs were currently being offered that we could take advantage of. And we were directed to the small business program, which is in addition to the Save on Energy program. And this program offers businesses direct incentives up to $3,000 for equipment improvements that reduce our energy consumption. And it is a turnkey program that covers all of the costs to install new lighting equipment, as well as the costs to responsibly dispose of fixtures. So following our inquiry, we were contacted by Blue Way, which is the service provider for the IESO to run the small business program. And they completed an audit of 18 of our township buildings to identify locations that we could benefit from through the incentives program. In total, the auditor identified 618 fixtures that, if we retrofitted them with LEDs, could result in energy savings for the township. And the annual savings, if all 1,618 fixtures were upgraded to LEDs, would result in a energy reduction of approximately 90,000 kilowatt hours, which is actually a reduction of about 51% for those specific fixtures. Following the initial assessment, staff identified 82 locations within several of our buildings, typically the office spaces, that would benefit from a complete LED panel replacement as opposed to just a bulb retrofit. And replacing of the entire fixtures not only reduces the energy usage, but will also improve the look of many of the spaces, providing a more polished look. So for instance, some of the, we don't have any in here, but the long square panels, they kind of yellow over time, or they kind of become cracked. And so these LED panels are provide a solid a lighting beam, as opposed to where you can see the individual tubes. So it's a nice potential upgrade. The audit report stated that the 90,000 kilowatt hour energy reduction could result in a savings to the municipality of approximately $11,000 annually, which is great. And as such, we're recommending that the full work program be completed, as it has a simple payback period of 1.2 years, which is very great. Energy programs that have payback periods of a year are considered to be an exceptionally good investment. So my report includes a full breakdown of each building that is included, and the savings and the costs for each of the buildings. So one thing to note, that the program does cover, the small business program covers up to $3,000 per location. As well, there's these additional incentives that are typically found through the Save on Energy program. So you'll see some of them have savings of around, the highest one's $4,600. In some locations where we exceeded that $3,000 threshold, there is a cost to the township. If we choose to undertake the full program, it's basically install all 600 plus fixtures, and that is shown in my table. And the total cost the total cost of the program as a whole is $56,000 and $86,087.50. And of that, $13,755 would be what would be due to the township to pay if we chose to go forward with the full program, which means that the small business program actually covers $42,332, which is a great savings. And then on top of that, there's the over $11,000 savings in electricity usage. Overall, the township staff are recommending that we go forward with the full program because we will realize the most energy benefits, as well as if we could choose to just do the upgrades that are fully covered by the program. That would unfortunately leave some fixtures here and there and throughout the buildings that wouldn't be done. And then we also wouldn't realize those full savings. One thing to note, that this program was undertaken through the small business program, and those incentives are only available through this specific avenue into the small business program. We did a bit of a background investigation to ensure that the tendering sort of processes that we would follow here at the township, the IESO also undergoes a full tendering project to ensure that the cost of the lamps and the delivery of the program is as cheap as possible. So it does meet those requirements. So while the 2025 budget didn't include this project, staff are recommending that we proceed this year in order to be able to take advantage of those IESO incentives. And that the cost of the township be funded through the township's modernization reserve. So we are recommending an upset limit of $20,000, including non-refundable HST for this project, and that will allow for some contingency allowance to cover any additional unforeseen fixtures that might be identified during the project. And sometimes what comes up, while they identify a location that might need a bulb replacement, they realize after the fact that the ballasts might have a problem, or there might be some additional things that until the electricians get in and start doing their work, that they might need some additional parts. So as I mentioned, staff are recommending an upset limit of $20,000 for this. The modernization reserve has an opening balance without the prior allocations as of January 1st. That has a balance of approximately $90,000. So there is some money sitting in there. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Good, and mover is Councillor Moore.
I think it's a great idea, and any way we can save money, I think it's great, and brings up two questions, though. One, I'll say both the questions, you can answer them in very short time. Are outside lights included, meaning yard lights, parking lots, etc.? And two, if an individual has current 2 ballast 4-foot lamp over their head, will the new ones be able to tone down if they're too bright for somebody who's light sensitive?
So I can answer part of the first one. So I'll have to get back to find out if there's like a dimming option. I do know that the panel ones have the light color, the Kelvin, the cool or warm. There is a way to do settings on that, and I'm sure that could probably be adjusted as necessary. But I can look into the dimming option. There would also potentially be options for additional things like adding dimming switches. These are newer technology. They should be able to include those. I'm sorry, can you remind me of your first question?
Outside lights.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. I believe it is because I think there was 20 lights identified on the Haley Town Site water treatment plant, the little box, and most of the lights are on the outside, so I'm pretty sure it does include them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good, Councillor Trim, seconder.
I'm not certain of all the addresses. Does this include the lights at the Seniors Active Living Centre? It does. Okay,
It does.
thank you.
That's 2022, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Good. I just have one remark, and that is I think it's 119 Sinton Street, but the Westmeath Arena, they already had all their lights converted.
So there's a number of the upstairs, the hall. Yes, my understanding with those ones were all done. A lot of these ones were like the changing rooms, the like office spaces in the actual arena, so the downstairs and backlighting rooms and outside lights. So it was the
But not the arena lights and not the hall.
no. So the above ice lights, and I believe the hall, but I know that the above ice lights had also been
Perfect.
done.
Good. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Any other comments? No? We'll then call for a vote. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is 9.5 Building Condition Assessments. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region approve the award of a sole source contract to Dillon Consulting Limited for services related to the building condition assessments at an upset limit cost of $66,245.76, inclusive of non-refundable HST. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. Good. Manager of Public Works.
Yes, thank you. Building condition assessments, or BCAs, are a critical part of any asset management plans. In the past, the township has done building assessments on our garages and also our fire hall. We've had 2 previous ones done on our Carbon Arena and Beachburg. But the rest of the building, as this building, had never received a building assessment done on the buildings that were provided in the report. The Dillon, staff felt that Dillon has already done some of our buildings that staff reached out to Dillon Consulting to provide a quotation for all the buildings that the township owns. And Councillor, Treasurer McGonigal and myself met with Dillon Consulting and requested a proposal to complete in 2 phases. Phase 1 is our building assessment on all of our buildings that currently don't have a BCA, and also a phase 2 to update the financial on our BCAs that were done in 2020 that were done for our fire halls and 3 public works buildings. The total cost is $65,000. That was included in the 2020 capital budget of $25,000. Originally, that budget was only supposed to be included for this building, and I believe the Forest Falls Senior Building.
Yeah.
But staff felt that part of the to have a strong asset management plan to include all the buildings, and the shortfall of $41,000 be funded by the modernization reserve that has a balance of $90,000 minus the $20,000 for the LED conversion. And thank you.
Thank you. Questions from mover, Councillor Tabbert? And seconder, Councillor Olmsted? Other questions from members of council? Okay, seeing none, I have one. I mentioned it at the CAO already, but Facility Condition Index?
Yes.
When they do the BCA, can they provide a recommended FCI? And maybe for the sake of council and the public, can you talk about that for a moment?
Yes. So similar to our roads, we have a paving condition index. So it's a rating system to provide a rating if it's poor or good. Dillon will be providing a FCI, which is a facility condition index rating on all the buildings provided. So we'll have a score if it's between poor to good or to excellent on our buildings. And then once all the BCAs are back and provided in, all the assets included, all the HVAC, electrical, roofing to parking lots will be included in our asset register, which will all be part of the updated asset management plan.
Perfect. And when we get that report back, maybe we'll go through it a little bit more, but any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, 9.6, Library Board appointment. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to appoint a new member to the Whitewater Region Public Library Board. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Moore. Clerk?
Yes, please. So we received a request from Sarah Lott. Is that correct, Councillor Trim? Lott? L-A-U-T. I'm sorry if I mangled her name. Let me start again. So we received an application from Sarah Lott to become a Whitewater Region Library Board member. Her application was circulated to the board and they approved the appointment, or approved recommendation of appointment. Mrs. Lott lives in Whitewater Region, and her experience and passion for community involvement make her a valuable board member. And if council approves the appointment, we'll pass a bylaw later on in the meeting. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Councillor Tabbert, mover? Good. And seconder, Councillor Moore? Good. Anything else from any member of council? Okay, just a quick question, Clerk. I know that they have to have a minimum of 5 board members, and this, what will this bring them up to?
This will bring us up to 6. I believe that's with Councillor Tabbert.
Perfect. Perfect. Excellent. See everybody counting on their fingers.
I'm right.
Okay. So we're above the minimum of 5, which is exactly what I need to hear. Okay. Good. And if there's no any comments from our library board rep, we're all good. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Good. Next item on the agenda, 9.7, Community Emergency Preparedness Grant. The recommendation is that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region enter into a transfer payment agreement to access funding through the Community Emergency Preparedness Grant 2024 to 2025. Mover to seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert and seconded by Councillor Trim. Good. Who's this going to you? Yes, clerk.
So this is a great news story. Back in October 2024, the township applied for the Community Emergency Preparedness Grant. This grant is from the Ontario government, designed to bolster emergency response in small and medium-sized communities. The application was aimed to secure funding from between $5,000 and $50,000, and our application was to purchase a mobile generator. On January 28, 2025, and the mayor noted this, that we did receive a notification that we were successful in our application. So we will be using the grant money to purchase a mobile generator to help supply power to critical facilities during outages caused by severe weather and flooding. Additionally, it will support the provision, hopefully, of a warming and cooling stations during extreme temperatures. And it will also help enhance the township's resilience and safeguarding to populations during our emergencies. So once we sign the transfer agreement, staff will work with the Emergency Program Committee, Fire, and Public Works to determine what facilities or what facilities need the equipment, and we will purchase the necessary equipment to make it all hooked up and happen. So if we have any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Tabbert is a mover. Good. Councillor Trim? None. Any other questions or comments from other folks? No, there's no questions. I just will say this is great news to know that the Associate Minister Jones and his staff have recognized our need, and I think a payoff from the investments we've had with the delegations. So I think it's important to be able to have this mobile capability. We're not going to be trying to buy a generator for every single facility. This way we can move the generator to where it's needed most, and the committee can come back to us with recommendations as to what facilities should be outfitted with the generator switch at that time. Good. With that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 9.8, amendments to the customer services and record retention policies. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact bylaws to amend the customer service, complaint and compliment, unreasonable customer behavior, corporate audio and video recording, and the records and information management policies. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Going over to the CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mayor Nicholson. So what we have before council is some amendments to our existing customer service policies and also record retention policies. This is in response to several incidents that we've been faced with over the last year. You'll note in the background of the report, these policies exist. The policies relating to customer service, unreasonable customer behavior, the audio video recording and records management. So these policies were established in 2019. They're not new to the township, but we're looking to amend them to implement new measures. The policies essentially enable the township to provide continuous improvement and open communication with the public, and to accept different methods and processes to receive comments, whether positive or negative, to be dealt with fairly. And it also makes sure that we could respond to any vexatious, frivolous, or unreasonable behavior, and we could respond to it with appropriate actions. So the township and its staff, we acknowledge together that there's a delicate balance between protecting individual privacy and ensuring the safety and security of our employees, the public, and property. So over the past year, and council will have noted this in some of the quarterly reports, and other presentations, that we've had some incidents that have required reviews in relation to unreasonable behavior, in relation to different complaints. But essentially, these reviews are consuming significant staff time, and it's impacting our ability to respond efficiently to other customers that we're trying to manage as well. So these incidents are not only with the Township of Whitewater Regions. These incidents of unreasonable behavior and incivility exist throughout the industry. So at the Roma conference, I sat in on a session with the library boards of Ontario, where they made a full presentation where they're also managing incivility with residents. And as recent as yesterday, I was listening to the radio, Radio-Canada, so the news, and the city of Gatineau, they've implemented a whole series of measures to be able to respond to this, because their employees are being faced with a lot of pressure in these realms. They spoke about, in their case, how employees feel powerless in responding to these unreasonable behaviors, and feeling that they have no powers when they're being faced with these constraints. So we're not alone in this, and we feel that some of these measures will assist in trying to mitigate that impact. So large or small, we're all dealing with this. So these updates will help ensure secure environment while maintaining transparency and accountability in interaction. So these changes will include the installation of video cameras in key facilities. These facilities include the office here in the main lobby, at our municipal garages, primarily focusing on our different fuel stations, at the landfill, where we've also had some incidents, the Cobden Arena, and the senior center. So these video cameras will also be implemented alongside an ability to record phone calls. So in the case where we're dealing with a resident that becomes impatient and loud, we will have the ability to record phone calls. Now, all of this is great. However, we will establish guidelines for staff when they use these measures. So if an employee decides that the phone call is unruly and they decide to record it, they will be required to report that to their supervisors, so that we could investigate the actions from the employees and from the residents and the like. So Together with the procedures, we will also be putting up clearly displayed signage so the public understand where video cameras exist. So we feel that as the staff team that this will mitigate against some interactions, unruly interactions, and we're hopeful that the residents will work with us and be patient and assist us in managing our affairs. So together with the amendments to these policies to implement these mitigation programs, we also are amending our record management policy. So the record management policy is the policy that establishes how we retain records. So by virtue of having video recordings, we need to adopt changes to that policy as well. And we've also made some minor edits to some other gaps that we've seen in our record retention policy. So glad to respond to any questions. And while I'm not extremely pleased that we have to do this, I think that as a CAO, this is a measure we need to take to support not only our employees, but also supporting other residents who are trying to be serviced by our staff. Thanks so much.
Thank you, CAO. I'll go to the mover first, Councillor Moore.
I'm in full favor of this. I know what it's like to work in the public. I worked in the school system and also in the fire department. Like more than once, I was nose to nose with somebody who was trying to tell me how to do my job, etc. So I'm fully aware of this, and I think an environment for our staff and employees is our importance here today around this table. We have to protect them. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Tabbert, seconder.
Yes, just a quick question. I'm just reviewing this. And why is there no cameras for our 2 libraries?
We've not engaged with the library board with respect to this initial phase of implementation. Certainly, I could engage with them following today's session, subject to the approval. And perhaps in a second phase of implementation, we may look at that. I will note that the facilities within which these the libraries are located are not municipal facilities. They are other facilities. One is the home for the aged and the school. So they might have other restrictions around video cameras in those facilities, but I could engage with them for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good. I see none. I'll just make the comment. It's unfortunate to create the policy, but I think your proposal is very transparent. Signs will be up. People will know that the video cameras exist. We're not trying to hide anything, and we're trying to make it as reasonable for our employees as much as for other members of the community who are trying to be served in these public areas. So I think it's a reasonable approach. Good. With that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 10, which is notices of motion. Is there any notices from any member of council today? Good. I see none. Next, we get into correspondence. There are no items under correspondence that require direction. There are a number of information items, some of which we'll speak to. The first item, enabling opportunity. Ontario's Rural Economic Development Strategy from the Minister of Rural Affairs. I think that's just for everybody to read. I don't think we have any comments on that one. The next one is the Medical Officer of Health's report to the board. This is the most recent report. Very fulsome report. Speaks to a number of items. I'll leave it with you to go through them. If there are questions, please see me, or I can bring them back to the board at any time. The next item, number C, is the County of Renfrew Council Summary for January 2025, and I do want to highlight a couple of items here. Excellent. The first one is just a note on the Mesa Warming Center. For those people that aren't tracking this initiative at the county through customer service or community services, is that a partnership was formed between the county and McKay Manor. And McKay Manor is actually hosting the Mesa Warming Center at 156 John Street in Pembroke, and has 1 patient recovery home program and 3 outpatient community-based programs. So the Warming Center is staffed 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, with frontline staff from McKay Manor. So an excellent partnership. And if you're not aware, the province has also seen fit to approve a heart hub for the county of Renfrew. And someone's going to ask me what HEART stands for, and I don't know. Homelessness and Addiction Recovery Treatment Facility. So it's basically an expansion of what you see that McKay Manor has initiated, but it very much a wholesome perspective on dealing with. It's not just fix one of the problems, but try to work on all of the challenges that a person may be going through in a homelessness or addiction-based circumstance. So that's the first item. So some great headway, both for the Warming Centre and the future of the Heart Hub. The next one is the two comments under Development Property Committee. The first one is just a number of free webinars that, and I believe our staff have already been advertising these, but the Enterprise Renfrew County is hosting a number of free webinars for businesses throughout the county. And on March 4th, there's going to be the Francophone Entrepreneurial Networking event in Pembroke. And the CAO and I are going to attend, even though my French is very, very rusty. So then that event, the winner of the Francophone Entrepreneurial Award will be announced. So just an information for those members of council that may interact with Francophones in our community. This would be an excellent opportunity for them to participate, and I will do my best not to butcher French. Okay, good. Two comments under the Operations Committees. The first one has to do with community safety zones, and I know staff are working with this already online, but the Operations Committee has asked staff at the county to link up with each one of the lower tier municipalities and figure out a policy with regard to creating community safety zones. Okay, so an important part from the township's perspective, because in community safety zones you can double, I believe it's double the fines or fines and tickets or whatever, for activities like speeding in them. So an important perspective, and staff are working on that. The next one is just, has to do with the road rationalization study. Now, we talked about this just before Christmas that the county was looking at. They've hired a contractor that's reviewing this as part of their transportation master plan, and they have updated a number of the criteria that would help to assess which roads should be county roads, which is municipal roads. These criteria were reviewed at county with input that came from all the lower tier public works managers and staff, and now that has been sent back to the consultant to incorporate back into the study. What does that mean for us? At this point, it doesn't mean anything, but it is important because this shapes how things will be evolved in the future. So the fact that staff are looking at it, the fact that you are aware of it is important. When the next product gets released by the consultant, I'll just ask maybe if the manager of public works can make sure that that comes back here and is shared with us, at least from an information perspective. Good, that was what I wanted to share. Last item is the budget highlights. I spoke to this in the address, but I think the treasurer wants to say a couple words. Okay.
Yeah, so it is part of the interim billing that's going out, actually being folded currently. It'll be mailed out this week. So attached, we have the current, and we also have the budget highlights. So in a way of providing more correspondence to the public and telling about the highlights of the actual, what has happened after the council has approved the budget for 2025. I've synopsised the whole presentation portion with our community development coordinator who put it all together. It gives a nice breakdown of what we are putting towards capital, what the OPP's impact was, what our operational impact was to the budget, and then the grants and projects that we're going to be doing in the coming year for 2025. It's a short and sweet piece, but at least it provides the public that knowledge of, hey, this is what I expect to see for the year, and they can see the progress coming through. And they just have a heads up of what council has decided and how we're shaping the municipality.
Good, thank you, Treasurer. Just one more way for us to communicate with the public and provide information to them that they can absorb. Good. With that, we'll move on to announcements. So we'll start with Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, this weekend is the Foresters Falls Winter Carnival. It's Friday night with bingo, and then on Saturday there are several events planned for the outdoors, so let's hope for some nice weather. And I also have a pretty lengthy one I'd like to read out, and it has to do with our library. I don't think I talk enough about it. So the library has several programs for our community. A most recent program initiated between the library and the Books of Seniors, the Whitewater Seniors. The library has provided a book cart with fiction, nonfiction, young adult, and many magazines for your reading pleasure. These books, magazines, and puzzles are available for those who attend the Senior Center in Foresters Falls, and better yet, they don't have to be returned. We also have 2 book clubs within our municipality. At the Beachburg branch, located inside the Beachburg Public School, there is a Books and Banter book club, the first Tuesday of each month for an evening discussing all things books. Bring a book you're currently reading or any book that you love. The Tuesday evening gathering is from 6 to 7:30 p.m. with coffee and tea provided. The Cobden branch, located inside Crescent Care Nursing Home, hosts a Cobden Book Club the second Tuesday of each month, 6:30 to 7:30. To reserve your book of the month, call the library at 613-646-7592. Also, if you enjoy baking or want to begin a baking hobby, the library also loans out a variety of cake pans at no charge. And there is also after-school programs at each branch of the library. For more information on what your library has for you, follow the Whitewater Region Public Library on Facebook or email to www.publiclibrary@gmail.com. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Tabbert. Much appreciate that. That's excellent. Good. Councillor Olmsted always has to follow Councillor Tabbert.
I was going to say the exact same thing about the library, but I'm going to pass at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Just one, and this came to light this morning when I was having my coffee at my kitchen table on Facebook. Apparently, there's a new phone number for ConnectWell in Beachburg and Cobden. So we will have to see that our friends in Foresters Falls get this to be able to post it, and perhaps we can put it in our next Connect, the new phone number. So I don't know why the phone number's changed. I guess they consolidated with all of what's been going on in upgrades and internet and telephone, et cetera, in our area. So people should know that the number has changed. 646-0420.
Excellent. I see the staff busily writing that down. Perfect. And Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Nicholson asked me to represent council at the annual Cobden Ice Fishing Derby and to bring greetings. And I also, on behalf of council, thanked the Civitan Club for all that they do. They are a very good friend to this council and to the community. And I probably could get the final results, but this was their 15th annual derby. It was the biggest one yet, and it seems that it's more fun having an ice fishing derby if you have ice. And this year there was lots of ice. Vehicles were allowed, even trucks were allowed to go out on the ice. It was determined to be quite safe, and it was the perfect, I think you would call perfect ice fishing day. It was beautiful sunshine, a small breeze. It was cold, but that's what it's all about. So I thank Mayor Nicholson for allowing me the opportunity to represent you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Trim. And I'll just highlight, we did receive a card from the Civitan already, indicating that they sold 1,719 tickets. 50-50 winner received $8,000 and $8,088. Beneficiaries each received $5,000. The 5 beneficiaries were Hospice Renfrew, Renfrew County Community Poverty Action Network, Teen Challenge, the Phoenix Center, and then local community projects. So a tremendous success, and it's a direct reinvestment right into the community where it matters. So thank you very much to the Civitan for doing all this work and putting something like this on. Excellent. I just had two other announcements that I noted. First one is February 8th is a Cobden Curling Club Food Bank Bonspiel. Now, I'm not a curler, but they have a supper at 7 p.m. So I'm going to go join them for supper, and if there's anybody else looking for supper on Saturday night, you can join me at the curling club at 7 p.m. 7, apparently it's after the, yeah. Okay, and then February 16th, Sunday morning, there is a Legion breakfast. So if you're looking for a Legion breakfast, February 16th in the morning. Excellent. That doesn't trigger any last minute announcements from anyone? Good. We'll carry on with bylaws. Item number 13 on our agenda. The recommendation is be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the February 5th, 2025 agenda be taken as read and passed. There's a number of items listed there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus the confirmatory bylaw. So a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Trim, Councillor Olmsted. Is there any final comments from anyone on those items listed on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And unanimous. There we go. That was it's been a long day. We are going to adjourn at 3:47 p.m. Thank you to the staff. That was a lot of information we got through today. Excellent. Good. Thank you.